In the nightmare wasteland, a loser boy named Lenka charges in, swinging his sword that flips between giant sword and big gun. Fueled by tragedy and a stubborn need for revenge, he joins an organization to smash monsters into dust. But between wrangling his oddball squadmates and uncovering Fenrir's shady secrets, Lenka's wild ride isn't just about monster hunting. It's about growing into the leader humanity desperately needs. The story kicks off with Lenka Utsugi staring down at what's left of the Far East Branch, basically a giant pile of rubble. The scene quickly shifts to him wandering through a wasteland of a city, where monstrous origami roam around like they own the place. But instead of turning back, Lenka keeps pushing forward until he makes it to Fenrir's Far East Branch gates. That's where he gets tested to see if he can handle a god arc, the ultimate origami-slaying weapon. Turns out, not only is he compatible, but he's also one of the special new type god eaters. We also get a flashback here, showing Johannes von Schicksal back in his early scientist days with Paler Sakaki and Aisha Gouch tinkering around with oracle cells. Spoiler: those cells are kind of the reason humanity is on the brink of extinction. Meanwhile, the defense unit, led by Tatsumi Omori, is sent out to handle an origami attack. Lenka, hot-headed as ever, tries to jump into the action, but Tsubaki Amamiya shuts him down instantly, telling him to stay put and focus on training with Kota Fujiki. Of course, Lenka being Lenka, he ignores good advice and rushes ahead anyway, only to fail miserably during their first training mission. To rub salt in the wound, he then witnesses a god eater come back from the battlefield completely wrecked. Instead of breaking his spirit though, this lights a fire in Lenka. He begs Tsubaki for more training and pours his heart out to Kota, making it clear he's dead serious about this whole origami fighting business. Even though Lenka keeps failing against the Kongu during training, he shows flashes of insane battle instincts and agility. Kota, wanting to help, takes him to check out the God Arc storage room. There, they see two injured God Eaters, dragging themselves in just to grab their weapons before heading back out. Hardcore. Lenka is then led to Lika Kusunoki's workshop, where she's fine-tuning his God Arc. Back at the base, news breaks that Lindo Amamiya and his first unit have taken down a Vajra, a big win. But that victory party is short-lived because another Vajra appears, and multiple origami swarm the outer walls of the Far East Branch. The monsters start tearing through the residential district, and chaos explodes everywhere. Once again, Lenka wants to charge in, and once again, Tsubaki tries to stop him. But Lenka's had enough. He grabs his God Arc, smashes through a wall, and vaults over the massive defenses, ignoring every order in the book. Another flashback rolls in, showing Johannes and the other scientists doing their oracle cell experiments as the world slowly spirals into a nightmare. On the battlefield, the situation is brutal. Civilians are being ripped apart, soldiers with regular guns are getting stomped, and origami are everywhere. Lenka arrives just in time to save Eric, but he's quickly overwhelmed when a Kongu knocks his God Arc away. Surrounded and running out of options, Lenka picks up a wooden plank. Yeah, that goes about as well as you'd expect. It gets eaten, and he's thrown aside like yesterday's trash. Just as things look hopeless, Soma, Sakuya, and Lindo swoop in via helicopter and completely wipe the floor with the origami, showing Lenka what real pros look like. But Lenka isn't done yet. He spots a lone civilian about to get crushed by a Kongu and bolts back into the fray. He snatches up his God Arc, shouts for it to help him, and suddenly it transforms into its gun form. With one massive blast, he obliterates the Kongu in front of everyone, shocking even the first unit. Not bad for a rookie who was just swinging around a wooden stick 5 minutes earlier. In the next scene, a mysterious girl, Alisa Amiela, boards a helicopter in the middle of a snowstorm. Things pick up with the first unit absolutely floored after watching Lenka's God Arc shift from sword mode to gun mode. Sakuya is impressed. Lenka is confused. And then, of course, an ogre tail jumps him before he can even figure out how to fire. Lindo yells at him to switch back to blade mode, but Sakuya has to step in and blast the creature away herself. Just when things couldn't get worse, a Vajra stomps onto the scene, crushing ogre tails like ants. Lindo, Soma, and Sakuya gear up for battle, while Lenka stands there in awe, wanting to help but being told to go hide with Eric like a kid. But Lenka, being the stubborn rookie he is, insists on fighting. After stashing Eric somewhere safe with Sakuya, he finally gets a crash course on how to actually use his gun form weapon, and shockingly, He nails it, even blasting a Kongu in one shot. The big problem? The Vajra is still there, angry as ever. Sakuya tosses a stun grenade, Soma tries to hold it down, and Lenka rushes in like he's been doing this for years. He fires right in the Vajra's face, which only succeeds in making the beast furious. Lightning comes in that flings Lenka like a rag doll. Lindo dives in to save him, but the Vajra looms overhead, ready to strike them both down. The next scene skips to Lenka being wheeled into the medbay on a gurney, unconscious. He briefly wakes up, haunted by a strange origami-like vision, only to find himself locked in a cell courtesy of Tsubaki, who's had it with him disobeying orders. She coldly says she never should have let him out in the first place, and then storms off. Lindo later remarks on Lenka's rare new-type powers, but doesn't sugarcoat the fact that the kid is reckless. Meanwhile, Johannes is buttering up the Fenrir higher-ups, trying to convince them to let Lenka keep his god arc. They shut him down immediately, smugly reminding him that another new type, Alisa from the Russia branch, is already on her way. Translation: Lenka's not as special as he thinks. Things go from bad to worse when Lindo breaks the news that, while the Vajra was eventually killed, Eric didn't make it. We even get a gut punch scene of him smiling just before being eaten alive. Lenka, devastated, clings to Eric's compass, vowing not to let his friend's death be meaningless. Meanwhile, Alisa's already on her way, sipping medicine on her flight like it's a casual commute. She confidently tells Oguruma that no other god-eater can match her, brushing off the mention of Lenka like he's irrelevant. But trouble brews fast when her squadron of planes gets attacked by flying origami, setting up her dramatic debut. Back at the branch, Tsubaki gives Lenka one final chance. Either sit in his cell and wait for judgment, or step up and prove his worth. Of course, he chooses to fight. Lindo meets him on the way out and gives his now iconic pep talk. 3 orders: don't die. If things get bad, run and hide. Then wait for your chance and strike. Lenka points out that's actually 4 orders. But Lindo just smirks and tells him not to overthink it. An Ouroboros, the size of a skyscraper, rises from the ocean like it just finished a power nap and decides to go surfing. Meanwhile, high above, Lindo, Sakuya, and rookie trouble magnet Lenka are in a helicopter heading toward a plane under siege. Why? Because poor Alisa's flight got gate crashed by a swarm of mysterious flying origami that look like they came straight out of an insect nightmare. Lindo casually mentions that Alisa's a new type god-eater, just like Lenka, which immediately has rookie boy sweating bullets. When they get close, the situation looks even worse. There are thousands of origami swarming the plane like piranhas at an all-you-can-eat buffet. Down below, Alisa is holding her own like an aerial action movie star, blasting away while literally hanging off the fuselage. Lindo tells her to retreat, but Alisa? Nope, she's all, "I got this," and keeps fighting. Lenka and Sakuya jump in with cover fire from the chopper while Alisa shows off the God Arc's Devour mode, chomping down on an origami mid-air to reload like it's the most normal thing in the world. But then, one of the creatures evolves mid-battle, sprouts an upper body, and roars, summoning even more to the party. Great. Cut to a flashback. Johannes, Sakaki, and Aisha back in the lab geeking out over resonance and how oracle cells can basically call their buddies to hang out. Translation: the origami hive mind is bad news. Back to the action. Lindo orders the chopper closer so he and Lenka can hop onto the plane. Alisa, meanwhile, is flipping around like Spider-Man, hooking herself across the sky and blowing up flying monsters left and right. When Lenka finally reaches her, instead of teaming up like reasonable people, Alisa straight up puts him in a submission hold. Yep, El Meet and Greet turns into a WWE match. She knocks him down and makes it clear she's not abandoning the plane. Inside, Lenka sees why. The place is full of injured Fenrir members, including Oguruma, and Alisa's busy trying to help them survive. Lenka relays this to Lindo, who coldly says the mission priority is just saving Alisa. But Lenka, ever the stubborn underdog, refuses. He's not about to let innocent lives be tossed aside. Alisa softens a little and agrees to fight alongside him and Lindo. Cue the epic team-up. Sakuya fires a flare that explodes like a mini nuke, scattering the origami long enough for the trio to strike. Lenka quickly runs out of ammo, but instead of panicking, he pulls off a wild move. He switches his god arc to blade form, devours an origami from way downtown, and reloads mid-fight. Rookie instincts? Who needs them? Lenka's suddenly pulling off pro-level combos. The teamwork between him and Alisa is smooth, too. They cover each other perfectly while shredding through the horde. Finally, with the last of the flying pests dusted, everyone exhales in relief. Mission complete, right? Not so fast. On board, Alisa starts grilling Lindo about the Far East Branch's cold, useful or useless philosophy. Clearly not a fan of the system. But before anyone can get into the ethics debate, Sakuya calls out a massive oracle reading heading straight for them. The helicopter bails as a decoy. And then the true nightmare arrives. Ouroboros, descending from the sky like a mountain with wings. Lenka and Alisa can only stare, jaws on the floor, while Lindo calmly says, "This is one origami they don't want to mess with." Lenka's silence? Yeah, you know he's already cooking up something reckless. Johannes is in full nostalgia mode, remembering the good old or not so good days in the lab with Sakaki and Aisha, when they were messing around with oracle cells and stressing that Fenrir HQ might pull the plug on their little science project. Fast forward to the present, and Director Serious Business himself is sitting across from Lenka and Alisa, while Tsubaki plays guide and makes introductions. Johannes lays out the big picture, the mysterious Aegis project, and casually drops that Lenka's reckless stunt in saving Alisa earned him a clean slate. Yup, no more punishment for insubordination. Basically, Lenka just got a get-out-of-jail-free card for being a stubborn hero. On the elevator ride out, Tsubaki makes it official. Lenka and Alisa are joining the first unit alongside Kota. The doors slide open, and there's Lindo, cigarette in hand, finally welcoming the newbies into the squad. Kota, ever the hype man, suggests they all go celebrate in town. Alisa shoots him down instantly, and Lenka mutters something about preferring to train. But Kota isn't having it. With enough enthusiasm to fuel a rocket, he drags Lenka along anyway. Meanwhile, Alisa has her own quiet moment, thinking back to a heartfelt talk she once had with Oguruma about Lenka. Out in the city, Lenka gets a crash course in real-world struggles. He and Kota watch Fenrir hand out food and supplies to people living in the ghettos outside the walls, something Lenka has literally never seen before. They drop by Kota's home, where his mom meets Lenka and immediately reacts like any mom would. Pure fear for her son's safety now that he's a god-eater. Kota brushes it off with that teenage, "don't worry, mom" attitude, but you can see the weight in her eyes as she begs him to come back alive. Later, Kota and Lenka find themselves staring out over the battlefield from the first episode, where the carnage still lingers in Lenka's mind. Kota, ever the optimist, starts talking about the Aegis project, painting it like humanity's golden ticket to peace. He even takes Lenka up onto Fenrir's massive walls and points out Aegis Island on the horizon. For the first time in a long while, Lenka feels something he hasn't known in ages hope, but the downtime doesn't last. Soon, the first unit gears up for a mission against 6 Gaboro. Teams are split, Alisa with Lindo, Lenka with Sakuya, and Kota with Soma. While hunting their prey, Sakuya gives Lenka a quick god arc, 101, showing him how devouring works. Lenka catches on fast, snatching a core out of one monster like a pro. Alisa, meanwhile, shows off by taking down her target solo, which frustrates Lindo since teamwork is kinda the whole point. Kota, on the other hand, nearly gets wrecked when a Giburo sneaks up on him, but Soma casually bails him out, unimpressed by Kota's nerves. The mission ramps up when Alisa ignores orders mid-fight, nearly getting herself wrecked. Lenka jumps in, but the Giburo smacks him with a water cannon. Soma, once again the cool-headed veteran, saves the rookie and finishes the fight. Afterward, Sakuya scolds Alisa while the squad swaps kill counts, heading back to base. On the way, a group of desperate civilians approaches them, begging for shelter after surviving an origami attack. Lenka proudly introduces himself and the others as god-eaters, even impressing a little girl in the crowd. But when they reach Fenrir's gates, reality hits like a truck. The group is denied entry because none of them are compatible with a god arc. Lenka's fists clench, ready to argue, but Lindo stops him. All Lenka can do is watch helplessly as the civilians' people who just wanted safety are forced to leave. The first unit drags themselves back from their mission, soaked and tired, but Hibari's there with a clipboard and a smile, thanking them for the fresh batch of origami cores. Lenka looks like he wants to say something to Lindo, probably something deep and dramatic, but nope, he chickens out and just walks off. The squad ends up chatting about the civilians they ran into earlier, realizing that Lenka, being an outsider, probably sees this whole Fenrir versus civilians mess way differently than the rest of them. That night, Lenka has a nightmare straight out of a horror movie. Civilians getting shredded by origami in the rain, only to wake up to more rain. Oh, and a terrifying Dyaus Pita snacking on a corpse in the distance. No biggie. Shaken, Lenka goes to Hibari to ask about the Aegis project. She drops a reality check. The thing isn't even 1% finished. Why? Because origami cores are needed in massive quantities, and they're not exactly lying around in bulk at Costco. Later, Kota finds Lenka brooding in the God Ark storage room, staring at a depressing counter ticking down the number of survivors left in the Far East branch. Yeah, morale's not exactly high. Then Soma strolls in, straight-faced as ever, and basically challenges Lenka's resolve, like he's trying to figure out if Lenka's really cut out for this whole God-Eater gig. Soon enough, Tsubaki calls the kids in for their next assignment. The mission? Take down 2 large-type origami. Sakuya immediately goes, "Are you kidding me? That's suicide," and suggests an easier job hunting Giboros instead. But Lenka and Kota, fueled by equal parts bravery and bad ideas, say they want to try a big one. When Vajra gets tossed into the conversation, both boys hesitate, but Alisa, who lives for this kind of chaos, immediately says she's in. Sakuya sighs, but signs off on it. Cue a rainy, junk-filled wasteland, where the team actually manages to bring down a Vajra. Kota hesitates on the finishing blow, but with some encouragement, he pulls the trigger while Lenka devours the core like a champ. But before they can celebrate, another Vajra crashes the party, and then another. Alisa chases one into a building, only to find civilians hiding inside. Bad timing, because suddenly there are 3 massive Vajras, cornering the squad. Just as it looks hopeless, the nightmare fuel himself, the Dyaus Pita, swoops in, like a demonic celebrity cameo. This is the origami that killed Alisa's parents, and she immediately loses it, downing pills like they're candy before charging in. Things go downhill fast. The Dyaus Pita smashes her, fries the squad with lightning, and starts slaughtering civilians in bulk. Lenka, furious, throws himself at the beast but gets torn apart, his god arc shattered, his body impaled. The monster even laughs like a human while butchering more innocents. Alisa tries again but is smacked down, and Lenka barely manages to drag her away with Kota and Sakuya covering them. They all end up falling off a collapsing land bridge into the river below, clinging to life by a thread. Meanwhile, back in the past, Johannes, Sakaki, and Aisha are deep in research mode, poking at oracle cells and discovering that these things have cores, holding the whole colony together. The US military comes knocking, basically saying, "Hey, monsters are popping up worldwide, and guns don't work. Please fix this." Johannes, ever the ambitious scientist, takes the assignment, not knowing he's basically signing humanity up for a full-blown origami apocalypse.